You're watching the Pops on Hops podcast, where we listen to some pops, drink a little hops, and I get to hang out with my pop. I'm Abigail Hummel.
And I'm Barry Hummel, and we want to welcome you to our final episode of reviews of food items that we discovered that were related somehow to the podcast. And we have a very special one today because this wasn't a food we found in a store. One of my colleagues at work has a daughter who makes cookies for a living. She goes under the name Clever Girl Confections. She's based out of Port St. Lucie, Florida. You can find her on Instagram, actually, at Clever Girl Confections. And I got a Christmas present from my colleague that blew me away when I got it. And they are cookies with the Pops on Hops logo on the cookies.
Hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn cookies.
And colored in.
And the problem is,
they're too pretty to eat.
they're too pretty to eat.
But we have to. For the people.
So I want to, this is a shout out to Abigail. Abigail Noyes is my colleague's daughter who has the confectioner's business. Of course, I should have, prepped the packaging better. So I'm going to unbox these cookies, and then I'll give you a better shot of them in the camera, in the alternate camera. Abigail, there's one for you.
Gosh, it's so cool.
Now, the other part of the gift is so gorgeous. I mean, seriously, it's the best. It's just crazy, right?
It is. And when we opened them, I had a moment of being like, oh my God, like this is my likeness on a cookie.
Right. Now, since then, she's discovered her likeness on our polo shirts.
Shirts.
We had the same image embroidered. By the way, the coffee cup that's made several appearances in this series was part of the gift. So my colleague Valerie sent me not only the cookies, but 4 matching mugs. And then in addition to that, sent coffee, hot chocolate, and crocheted 4 coasters to go with them. So we've been sitting on this for a little while because I really wanted to unveil this on the podcast. It was so charming.
Very charming. Very, very cool to have fans that will do this kind of thing for us. It's amazing.
So I guess after all this time, by the way, hand-drawn, to Abigail's point, sometimes you'll see these things where you get this paper product, rice paper, whatever it is, and you print on it, and you can lay that over a cake. So it's like a real image. No, these were hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Each cookie.
We got 8 cookies total.
Yeah, and everyone's slightly different because of the amount of labor that went into making these cookies.
So cool.
So I guess after all these months, Abigail, it's time to actually taste the Clever Girl Confections Pops on Hops branded cookie.
Cheers. Our final cheers.
It's like a simple shortbread style cookie, I guess, a little bit.
There's a lot to get through.
Well, it's thick, but the cookie is fairly, it's not very sweet, and the icing obviously is very sweet. So
yes,
the cookie's not overly sweet. I like it.
The cookie's really nice, actually.
It is.
Very thick layer of icing on top.
And you'll notice I'm eating around us. I'm afraid to take a bite out of us. I'm working on the periphery, so it's like very.
So I know that the icing is obviously necessary for the decoration. I'm not a big icing girl, and this level of icing is.
There's a lot.
Way too much for me.
Because I guess is it that royal icing that hardens like this?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, right? It's a layer of royal icing that then's been hand drawn on.
Yeah. But were these cookies really for eating?
No, we've been sitting on them for months.
They're really for looking at, in my opinion.
Still eating around the periphery because I'm afraid to take a bite out of my own head.
I'm going to quit after this one chomp, I believe.
Are you?
Yeah.
I was trying to get to my beer mug.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, you picked your head up. Oh, no.
Suicide by cookie. Oh, well. Delicious.
So there is another order of business.
One more.
That we've been meaning to talk about. So we're in our 4th season now. We've been doing this for over 3 years, which is
bonkers,
crazy to think about, right? And we sort of always knew from the beginning that if this was going to have the sustainability and longevity that we were really hoping it would have, that eventually we were probably going to run out of albums that we felt strongly about assigning one another.
Right, kind of the
from our own
first run
personal collections, right? And in season 4, we are quickly approaching that inflection point. And so we have been strategizing and thinking about not ways to pivot per se, but other types of content that we can cycle in so that we can stretch our list a little longer.
Well, I don't think it's content difference per se. I'm looking at a way. So I'll give you an example. I went through my album collection, and I could easily just alphabetically pick an artist that starts with the letter A and find an album that's worth discussing that I don't think you're familiar with. That wasn't part of my primary sort of story that I was trying to tell.
Right.
And I think for me, that's an easy one. Another one we talked about was...
I don't have a CD collection
right,
like this man does. So that would be great for you. That wouldn't work for my half of the assigning.
So another one would be to take, say, Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time. Not that we're going to get through 500 albums, but the point is we could start at the top and work our way down. We could start at number 100 and work our way backwards and find sort of the highest rated album of any particular artist that we haven't discussed. So an example would be Rolling Stones. We'd find the highest rated Rolling Stones album on the album list. We could do the same thing with Jimi Hendrix. We could do the same thing with a lot of rap artists because a lot of those appear in that top 100. Mm-hmm. There's some really interesting albums on there. So that's an option.
Right. And then we've also discussed just cycling in more jukeboxes, doing jukebox episodes more often, once every switch off, to get some new albums in there and to cycle the jukebox a little more because we're coming up on having more submissions than we have room in our jukebox for.
Yeah, we only get to 4 or 5 of those a year based on the way we do the schedule. So we could potentially cycle through faster. The one problem with that is if we're doing it every 6 weeks instead of every 10, those are logistically tricky because people are off site. How are we going to get the beer? And there's a lot of logistics go into that. So something else I was thinking about was we just say, we're going to increase the jukebox rotation. And what we do is we pull one and we don't have to necessarily worry about the date. We can figure out the logistics, and as soon as it's ready, drop it in. That would be that system would make it so that we couldn't necessarily go, hey, your album's going to be on such and such a date. My next album's such and such a date. We would just know yours and I are going back and forth, and we'll cycle in the extra one as frequently as we can, which would allow more participation from the jukebox. And really, I think it's going to be some combination of those things. But what we thought would be fun or helpful is when the audio version of this episode airs with all the food items that we've done as one bonus audio episode, Spotify allows us to put a poll on the Spotify page. And so we're going to put a poll up with maybe a couple of those choices. For sure, the alphabetical one makes it. I think the jukebox makes it. Mm-hmm. We can discuss what option you think works better for you. And then we will put those up and let everybody take a survey and sort of give us some guidance on that. And it may be some combination. I think that's what's going to be best. But we thought we'd turn to you to see what you were more interested in listening to.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're open to other ideas too. So if you have an idea that we have not listed today, we're more than happy to hear it.
Absolutely. Because we have found that some of the more interesting, more fun episodes are when we have a third voice on the podcast. So we love doing that. We just know that's trickier to produce, but delighted to do it. So hopefully some combination of this will increase the number of guests we have. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right.
Oh my gosh, you're on your last bite.
I've saved you.
Oh no.
I have preserved Abigail. That was my final decision. I couldn't do it. I'm leaving Abigail off to the side. And I think that'll be the end of my cookie eating for today. But not my coffee drinking.
Wow, so fatherly. He couldn't even consume an image of his daughter.
Consumed myself before I would even.
Wow, that's really deep.
It's very protective. Parents are very protective. This is the message there.
In the meantime, you can find us on all social media platforms. We are Pops on Hops Pod across all of our branding. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Our email is popsonhopspod@gmail.com. Our website is popsonhopspod.com.
And I think for now, that's it. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.